Welcome to the Wellness Lab Digest, where we help you to absorb powerful, life-changing insights from top wellness experts with our daily, bite-sized wellness podcast summaries. Each episode is packed with distilled, powerful takeaways to boost your health and well-being. To support this podcast, please scroll down on whatever app you're listening on. Ratings and reviews are helpful. Even better, just send the show to a friend. Or check out our sponsors at the bottom of the page, or simply click the Support the Show link.
Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going deep today.
Diving deep.
Yeah, into this interview with Kobe Bryant.
Oh, wow.
We did with Jay Shetty
Okay.
a while back, and Kobe Bryant, basketball legend.
Mm-hmm.
But this interview goes way beyond sports.
Yeah.
Like we're talking fatherhood purpose storytelling.
Really a gold mine of insights into how he thought.
Yeah, and just like
Hey,
how he
Spin.
approached life in general.
I was so fascinated by how he connected those different
Yeah,
parts of his life,
totally.
For example, like how he talked about fatherhood
Yeah,
as like a profound transformation.
that's one of the things that I really wanted to dig into.
Yeah.
He had this great quote where he's talking about how
Okay.
it was this major shift from, focusing on
Yeah.
selfishness together with his wife
Okay.
to being completely selfless for his kids.
And you can see how that realization really fueled
Yeah.
his drive to like create stories
Yeah,
that would inspire and empower young people,
exactly.
especially his own daughters.
Especially his daughters. Yeah, he even talked about how Gianna,
Oh, wow.
his daughter Gianna, encouraged him to finally finish Dear Basketball,
Yeah.
his Oscar-winning short film.
It's amazing how even Kobe needed a little push sometimes, right?
He did.
To get things done.
Totally.
Mhm.
And that dedication to empowering his daughters
Mm-hmm.
extended to his coaching as well.
Okay.
So he coached Gianna's basketball team.
Yeah.
And his approach was so different.
In what way?
Well, so instead of, just barking orders
Right.
and like focusing on winning at all costs,
Yeah.
he really emphasized teaching the girls how to think for themselves
That's interesting.
on the court.
Okay.
So like he talked about how he would avoid giving them direct answers
Mm-hmm.
and instead ask questions
Yeah.
to encourage problem solving.
He wanted to make them think.
He wanted them to think, and he wasn't just focused on immediate results.
Yeah.
He wanted them to learn how to navigate challenges
Right.
and make decisions independently.
Which makes total sense when you think about his own journey.
Yeah.
Remember, he wasn't always this like larger-than-life figure.
Right.
He started out as the skinny kid with big dreams.
Yeah, he had to develop that long-term vision and dedication to transform himself into, a basketball legend.
He even talks about how he recognized
Yeah.
his own physical limitations early on
Yeah.
and focused on like gradual improvement,
Yeah.
like working smarter, not just harder.
Absolutely. And that's a lesson that applies far beyond the basketball court.
For sure.
So that leads us to this other important aspect of his philosophy, which is how to deal with failure.
Yeah, that's huge.
So it's not about ignoring negative emotions or pretending like everything's fine.
Right.
He talked about unpacking fear
Unpacking.
as a way to conquer it.
Oh, interesting. So instead of just like avoiding our fears,
Yeah.
he's encouraging us to like break them down,
Yeah.
analyze them, understand where they're coming from.
Yeah. And he uses this great example of missing those crucial free throws in a big game.
Everybody's been there, right?
Totally.
That fear of failure.
Yeah.
You don't want to mess up
You don't want to mess up.
in front of everybody.
Exactly.
But by dissecting that fear,
Yeah.
you kind of take away its power.
Yeah.
It becomes less about being afraid and more about like, why am I afraid?
That's such a good point.
Right.
Yeah. It's like becoming a detective for your own emotions.
Exactly. And he ties this back to the cyclical nature of life.
Yeah.
Like we need to understand that setbacks are a natural part of the process.
Totally.
They're not permanent.
Yeah.
And it's how we handle those challenges that really defines us,
Totally.
This whole idea of unpacking fear is about taking control
Yeah.
rather than letting fear control you.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about Detail for a second, his
Okay.
ESPN show.
Mm-hmm.
So he had this really cool story about how the idea for that show came to him.
Okay.
So he had been searching for an idea for a sports show for
Mhm.
over a year.
Wow.
And then, bam, it hit him while he was shopping with his wife.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating is how he describes
Okay.
that moment of inspiration.
Yeah.
It's like he wasn't just passively waiting
Right.
for an idea to appear.
He was actively
He had been
engaging with the problem.
Yeah, thinking deeply about it.
Yeah.
And then when he least expected it,
Mm-hmm.
the solution emerged.
And it wasn't just about having the idea. It was about testing it.
Yes.
Refining it.
So he talks about how he would actively try to shoot down his own ideas
Interesting.
to really test their strength.
So it's almost like he was playing devil's advocate with himself.
Exactly.
Trying to find the weaknesses and make them better.
Refine his concepts. And it reminded me of the role of an antagonist.
Oh, yeah.
In a story. You know, a strong villain pushes the hero to grow and overcome obstacles.
Yeah.
And in a way, Kobe was embodying that antagonistic force in his own creative process.
That's really cool.
It's really cool.
I like that.
Yeah, he was constantly challenging himself, pushing himself to be better.
Yeah.
So it's a good reminder that even when you think you have a great idea,
Yeah.
it's important to really dissect it.
Mm-hmm.
Find those areas where you can improve.
Totally. And it's not just about refining ideas.
Right.
He was deeply passionate about the craft of storytelling itself.
Yeah, and he talked about how he wasn't initially a big reader,
Okay.
but then he had this high school English teacher
Oh, cool.
who really opened his eyes to the power of stories
Wow.
and how they can shape the world around us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that experience really stayed with him.
Yeah.
And I think that's when his dedication
Mm-hmm.
to creating diverse and representative characters comes in.
Okay.
You know, he saw this lack of diversity in the stories being told, especially in sports,
Mm-hmm.
and he wanted to change that.
He faced some pushback from studios, though, right?
They didn't think stories about basketball, especially those featuring diverse characters, would connect with a wider audience.
Wow.
But Kobe was determined to prove them wrong.
Good for him.
He wanted to create stories that reflected his own daughter's reality and inspired others who didn't see themselves represented in mainstream media.
And he did just that.
He did.
Dear Basketball won an Oscar.
Yeah.
And his sports-themed novels have resonated with a diverse audience.
Yeah. He challenged industry norms.
Totally.
And showed that stories about pursuing your dreams and overcoming obstacles are universal no matter your background.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to his belief in finding mentors and learning from those who came before us.
This is where the Muse Hall comes in, right?
Yes.
So he had this thing he called Muse Hall in his office.
Okay.
And he filled it
with what?
With portraits of people.
Oh, right.
Like J.K. Rowling and Steve Jobs. And it was this constant source of inspiration for him.
Yeah, like surrounding yourself with the energy of greatness.
Totally.
Even if it's just through their stories and their legacies.
It makes you think about how we can all create our own versions of Muse Hall in our own lives.
Right.
Like, who are the people who inspire us? What are the stories that fuel our passions?
Yeah.
It's all about seeking out those sources of inspiration
and
using them to fuel our own journeys.
Yeah.
Learning from the best.
Well, totally.
And pushing ourselves to achieve our full potential.
It's inspiring stuff.
It is.
And we're just getting started.
We are just getting started.
There's so much more to unpack here.
There is.
We'll be back to dive even deeper.
We'll be right back.
One thing that really stood out to me was Kobe's emphasis on structure and routine.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
He was like military-like in his discipline.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
When it came to his work.
Yeah.
Whether it was training or writing a story.
Yeah.
You know, he even talked about how he would struggle with that little voice in his head.
Oh, totally.
You know, the one that says like, maybe skip your workout today.
Maybe tomorrow.
Or I'll just write tomorrow.
Yeah.
And he had this really interesting strategy.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
For dealing with that.
Yeah.
So he would actually make a contract with himself.
Oh,
like a predetermined
that's interesting.
Structure.
So there was no room for negotiation.
Exactly. You know, it wasn't about feeling motivated in the moment.
Right.
It was about
just sticking to the plan.
Sticking to the plan.
Yeah.
Regardless of how he felt.
So it takes like the emotion out of it?
Exactly. You don't have to rely on willpower or like inspiration.
Just show up.
You just show up.
Yeah, and do the work.
Exactly.
Even when you don't feel like it.
Yeah, and that allows you to be so consistent.
Right.
And that consistency
is what ultimately breeds the success.
Yeah, totally. It's about building those habits.
Right.
Creating systems that support your goals.
Now, another thing that he talked about was coaching.
Okay.
He was really worried that a lot of parents and coaches, especially in youth sports, focused too much on immediate results.
Yeah. He talked about coaching for results.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on long-term development.
Right.
Like, we're not teaching kids how to persevere, how to embrace the process of getting better.
He used this great analogy about teaching a kid how to fish.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of just getting them the fish.
Right, yeah.
He wanted to equip them with the skills and the mindset to navigate the challenges.
To solve problems.
Not just win games.
Right, because life isn't always about winning.
Exactly.
It's about, learning how to bounce back from those losses.
How to extract the lessons and use them to grow.
Speaking of growth,
let's shift gears for a second and talk about his passion for storytelling.
Okay.
one thing that stood out to me was his emphasis on details.
Totally.
He wasn't just coming up with cool concepts.
Right.
He was really like fleshing them out, asking those deeper why questions.
It reminds me of how he approached basketball, too.
Totally.
Like he was always studying his opponents, analyzing their moves, trying to anticipate their next play.
Yeah.
And he brought that same level of intensity to storytelling.
He believed that every detail mattered.
Yeah.
He wasn't just telling tales.
Right.
He was building worlds.
He was world building.
Yeah. He'd go deep on character development.
Yeah.
Considering their backstories, their motivations, even their family dynamics.
He wanted his characters to feel real.
Yeah.
Relatable.
And that's what made his stories so compelling.
Yeah. And he wasn't afraid to like really obsess over an idea.
Right. He talked about how he would constantly try to shoot down
his own ideas
to find the weaknesses.
Yeah, to see if they could withstand that scrutiny.
It's interesting how he embraced that process of challenging and refining his work.
Totally.
He wasn't attached to his initial ideas.
It was about pushing for excellence.
Pushing for excellence.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about something that was clearly very important to Kobe.
Okay.
Diversity and representation in storytelling.
Yes, absolutely.
He was a strong advocate for creating stories that reflected the diversity of the world around us.
He saw a lack of diverse characters in books and films, especially for kids.
Right.
And he wanted to change that.
He wanted his own daughters to see themselves reflected in the stories they read.
And he faced a lot of resistance.
He did.
Studios didn't think stories featuring diverse characters, especially in the sports genre, would be marketable.
But Kobe believed in the power of these stories.
He knew that these themes of pursuing your dreams, overcoming obstacles, finding your voice, were universal.
Regardless of your background. Yeah. He wanted to show kids from all walks of life that their stories matter.
That they could achieve anything.
Yeah.
And Dear Basketball, winning an Oscar was such a powerful validation.
Totally. It showed the world that stories about sports and stories featuring diverse characters could resonate with a global audience.
And it wasn't just about racial and ethnic diversity.
Right.
He was also passionate about gender diversity.
Okay.
Particularly in animation.
Oh, cool.
He wanted to see more female characters in leading roles.
Yeah.
And he was actively working to create opportunities for women in the industry.
That's great.
Which makes me think about his Mies Hall again.
Right.
Surrounding yourself with inspiration from people who broke barriers and challenged norms.
It's about finding those role models.
Totally.
Who embody the qualities you admire.
Absolutely.
He believed we could all create our own versions of Mies Hall by seeking out
the stories,
the biographies,
the documentaries,
the mentors who inspire us to be our best selves.
It's about surrounding ourselves with greatness, learning from the best, and using that inspiration to fuel our own journeys.
It's fascinating how he constantly sought out knowledge and inspiration, whether it was through books or conversations or even
just observing the world
around him. He had this insatiable curiosity, this desire to understand
the why behind everything. He was always looking for those deeper connections, those universal truths that bind us all together.
And that's what made him such a compelling storyteller.
His stories weren't just entertaining.
Right.
They were thought-provoking.
Yeah.
They made you question your assumptions.
Yeah.
And they left you with this sense of wonder.
And it wasn't just about absorbing information.
Yeah.
He was also a master at synthesizing it.
Connecting the dots.
Connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Finding those unexpected links.
Yeah.
Remember that story about how...
Oh, yeah, with detail?
The idea for detail came to him...
While he was shopping.
While he was shopping with his wife.
Yeah.
And he was looking at a piece of fabric.
Oh, wow.
And the intricate details just captivated him.
Yeah.
And in that moment, the idea for a show that analyzes...
The intricacies of basketball.
The intricacies of basketball just clicked.
Wow, that's so cool.
It's amazing how inspiration can strike in the most unexpected places.
Totally.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
He wasn't just passively waiting for inspiration to strike.
He was actively searching.
He had been searching for a show idea.
For over a year.
For over a year.
Yes.
He'd been planting those seeds, watering them,
Yeah.
and then boom.
The inspiration bloomed.
The inspiration bloomed.
In this seemingly random moment.
It's like he was priming his mind.
Totally.
For that breakthrough.
Yeah.
He was immersing himself.
Yeah.
In the world of basketball,
thinking
deeply about the game.
And that's what allowed him to see the potential in something as simple as a piece of fabric.
He was always challenging himself.
Always.
Pushing himself to be better.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid to be wrong.
Right.
To admit that his initial ideas might need some work.
It was all about the pursuit of truth.
Exactly, not ego.
Not ego. And I think that's a valuable lesson for all of us.
Totally.
To be willing to let go of our attachment to our ideas.
Yeah.
To be open to feedback, to iteration.
Yeah.
It's through that process of refinement that we truly grow.
He even compared it to the role of an antagonist in a story.
Oh, yeah.
A strong villain is essential.
Yeah.
Because it forces the hero to confront their weaknesses and ultimately become a better version of themselves.
So in a way, Kobe was embodying that antagonist role in his own creative process.
He was constantly pushing himself, finding those weaknesses, and then working tirelessly to overcome them.
And this dedication to growth wasn't just limited to his own work.
Right.
He was also passionate about fostering a growth mindset.
In others, especially young people.
In others, especially young people.
Remember how we talked about his approach to coaching?
His daughter's basketball team?
Yeah. Instead of just barking orders from the sidelines, he would sit back.
Observe. Ask questions. Guide their thinking. He wanted them to learn how to solve problems on their own.
To develop that sense of independence and critical thinking.
He wasn't just teaching them how to play basketball.
Right.
He was teaching them how to think.
Yeah.
How to learn how to approach challenges.
With a resilient mindset.
And
that's something we can all apply to our own lives. It's about embracing that journey of discovery. Being open to learning from our mistakes.
And constantly striving to be better.
Yeah. His own path to storytelling was fascinating as well.
It would.
He wasn't a big reader. Growing up because he was so focused
on basketball.
Yeah. But then he had this amazing
English teacher
in high school.
He really opened his eyes
to the power of stories.
And
that sparked a lifelong passion.
It did. He realized that stories had the power to connect us. To teach us, to inspire us. And he wanted to use that power to make a difference in the world.
It's incredible how a single teacher can have such a profound impact on a student's life.
Absolutely.
And it just goes to show how important it is to have those mentors.
Those guides.
Who
help us discover our passions and unlock our potential.
Totally. I'm curious, have we missed anything crucial here?
You know, I'm just thinking about that. We've talked about his career, his philosophy, his passion for storytelling. But I'd love to hear more about how fatherhood impacted him on a personal level.
He did mention that becoming a father shifted his perspective. Made him more selfless.
But I'd be curious to know how he balanced the demands of his career with being a present and involved father.
Me too.
And I'm also wondering how his daughters have influenced his creative work. He talked about wanting to create stories that empower them. But I'd love to know if they've inspired specific characters or storylines
Those are fascinating questions.
Yeah.
It just goes to show that even though we've gleaned so much from this interview, there's always more to learn.
There is.
More layers to uncover.
Totally.
And I think that's a testament to Kobe's complexity and depth as a person.
Yeah, he wasn't just a basketball legend.
Right.
He was a thinker, a creator.
A father.
A
man on a mission to make a difference in the world.
And even though we've only scratched the surface of his story.
I think we can all take away some valuable lessons.
Absolutely, from his life and legacy.
For sure. You know, it's amazing how even after all this time, there's still so much to learn from Kobe.
Yeah.
His story just continues to inspire people all over the world.
And what's so powerful is how he never shied away from sharing his struggles.
Yeah.
You know, he was open about his moments of doubt.
Total.
His fears, his failures.
Yeah.
He showed us that it's okay to not have all the answers. You know, that it's through those challenges that we grow.
It makes him so much more relatable.
Right.
He wasn't this untouchable icon. He was a human being who faced real obstacles and found a way to overcome them.
And it gives us all permission to embrace our own imperfections.
Totally.
And, you know, keep striving for greatness.
Absolutely. And his transition from basketball to storytelling is such a perfect example of that growth mindset.
Totally.
In action.
Yeah.
He didn't just retire.
And rest on his laurels.
He dove headfirst into a new passion.
Yeah, he did.
And approached it with that same intensity and dedication that he brought to the court.
It wasn't just a hobby for him.
Right.
It was a new chapter.
A new challenge.
A new challenge.
He was studying the craft, learning from the best.
Yeah.
Pushing himself to create something meaningful.
And he wasn't limiting himself.
Right.
To just one form of storytelling either.
He did it all.
Yeah. He wrote books, produced podcasts.
Animated shows.
Created animated shows. Worked on a basketball analysis show.
Wow.
For ESPN.
He really embraced that multimedia approach.
He did. It's like he was constantly exploring new ways to connect with people and share his vision.
Which makes you wonder,
I know,
what he would accomplish next.
What would he have done next?
Right.
What other stories would he have told?
What other boundaries would he have pushed?
It's a reminder that no matter what stage of life we're in, there's always more to learn, more to explore, more to create.
Totally.
We can always find new ways to challenge ourselves and make a difference.
And I think that's one of the most important takeaways from Kobe's legacy.
It's about embracing that growth mindset.
That relentless pursuit of excellence.
Yes.
In our work and in our lives.
It's about pushing past our comfort zones.
Learning from our mistakes.
Never giving up on our dreams.
Kobe's life was a testament to the power of human potential.
He showed us that with hard work.
Dedication.
And a belief in ourselves.
We can achieve anything we set our minds to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question that Kobe himself often pondered.
Okay.
What's your legacy? What stories do you want to tell?
Yeah.
What impact do you want to make on the world?
Take some time to reflect on that because just like Kobe, each of us has the power
to write our own story,
to leave our mark on the world,
and to inspire others,
to
reach their full potential.
That's it for this deep dive.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Wellness Lab Digest. If you receive value from the podcast, I have 3 asks of you. 1, share the show on social media with your friends and tag the show at the Wellness Lab Digest on Instagram. Number 2, please leave a rating and review in whatever app you're listening on. And last but not least, please let me know what topics you would like us to cover in the future. You can contact me at empoweringmen.org/contact. And right now we have a free ebook to get you started on your wellness journey as well. That's empoweringmen.org/contact. To support this podcast, check out our sponsors at the bottom of the page or simply click the Support the Show link.